Hey guys, it's blissfully boneheaded games here, and have you guys ever wanted to just not do what you're supposed to do? Like right now, I'm not supposed to attack the camera person, but I want to. In our day-to-day lives, we have to show restraint when it comes to things like this. You can't just go attacking everybody you see on the street. That'll get you like 12 days in the stink pit. Your odor will never go away. Grandma and Grandpa will not even want anything to do with you. Say goodbye to Grandma's cookies and hello to a life of isolation and despair. Now luckily, a guy like me can avoid the stink pit because certain video games allow me to do whatever I want to do. When I was like 16, I made a video called Screw Around Games. The concept of the video was that I would talk about games where instead of actually playing the story or doing the objectives, I'd just do whatever I wanted. Which usually involved the misfortune of pixelated little people, unfortunately. That video covered a few of my favorites like Just Cause 2 and Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. But there are so many more instances of games that fit in this type of video that I needed to make a sequel. I feel like a lot of people have had that wanting to play Grand Theft Auto but not being allowed to play it era of their life that range from late elementary school to some rare unfortunate cases dying of old age. In that era, you desperately want the freedom of doing whatever you want in Grand Theft Auto. And you have to trick your parents into thinking that games that allow you to do very similar things are more appropriate. Just Cause 2 is the example of this I've brought up the most because it's a sandbox game where the point is to cause as much chaos as possible. It was pretty much everything I wanted from Grand Theft Auto in elementary school, but it didn't have strip clubs in it, so I was allowed to get it. But even before Just Cause 2, there is a much more sinister game that has lurked so far under the surface that I haven't even talked about it on this channel. That game is the PlayStation 2 version of Transformers: The Game. This game is based off of the 2007 Transformers movie that I never cared about. I really didn't even care about Transformers in general. Because of this, I don't even remember how or why this game ended up in my possession. But let me tell you, it's a miracle that it did. It starts off by having you choose whether you're an Autobot or Decepticon, and like any good law-abiding citizen, I chose the Autobots first. After skipping a cutscene, you get this shot of Bumblebee standing in a playground in all of his glory. You are now a giant, almost invincible robot, and this city is at your mercy. You can go wherever you want and the buildings are fully destructible. And that is why this game ended up being a favorite of mine. I barely have any memories going past this first level, or playing as the Decepticons at all. I think I beat the game once, but the memory is so fuzzy that for all I know it could have been a dream. I would get home from school and just drive around this city and blow up as many buildings as possible. And I'm going to do my best recreation of that for you guys. Just remember that we're the Autobots, so we have to keep it a little bit classy. The game is also rated T for teen, so that means that the people can't be blown to smithereens. Optimus Prime does his best to periodically remind you of this and the task at hand.
Head for the meteor landing site. No other Autobot should be on Earth right now, which means the Decepticons might have picked up your trail.
Seriously, at the start, he just keeps saying this over and over again. With that out of the way, I thought the most logical place to destroy first would be the news center, so that the public can't be informed about what is happening, which as you can see was pretty simple. I followed that up by destroying the whole police station because that seems to be our main opposition here. And then I destroyed what they valued the most to demoralize them. But hey, this is a pretty good start, and I can change to a car anytime I want to escape the danger. This moment of calm is the perfect time to test the AI. I love blocking the road and seeing how many cars it takes to break through the floodgates. A big thing I also noticed was that no matter how far away you push a car or how violent the crash looked, they will always make an attempt to go back to the road if you didn't blow them up. But back to business. I need to destroy the power supply so that nobody can do what is valued most in this universe: cozying up and watching the 2007 Transformers movie. Conveniently, there are just a bunch of bombs here at the power plant that you could use at your disposal. My last little detour was to play a friendly game of baseball. I like just lining up the cars from the parking lot from the plate and hitting them as far as possible with a giant bat that I grabbed from a nearby building.
Home run!
The tanks and helicopters don't seem to like it though, and because of their rude interruption, it became my mission to destroy every destructible building possible. Which is harder than it sounds because the draw distance isn't good enough to render the destroyed buildings, making it hard to see what I have and haven't destroyed. I wasn't able to achieve this as a kid, so I was determined to make history. I systematically went up and down every row of buildings for about 2 hours until eventually, the Transformers the game suburbs were toast. A long time before this, Optimus Prime just gave up on me. He went from talking to me every 2 seconds to disappearing into thin air. And because of his laziness, all that was left of the town was the eerie ghost of what once was. I drove around for a while trying to find something that I missed, but it was all destroyed. I felt like I was driving around one of those pictures that shows your past self from far away, but changes to yourself now when you get close. Except in this case, all that would be left of yourself now would be a filthy sack of bones. But hey, at least the Decepticons didn't get to the town. Who knows what those heathens would do? Believe it or not, I don't cause mass destruction in every game in this video. The Pokemon games are a great example of this. When I was a 10-year-old boy, there was nothing but rocks in my skull. I had this belief that anything was possible in video games. For example, if I ran around in the tall grass long enough, there had to be at least a small chance that a Lugia would show up. I mean, this is the Pokemon world we're talking about, where any dreams are possible. I mean, there's a Squirtle with sunglasses in Pokemon Channel for crying out loud. Unfortunately for me, that just wasn't how things worked. The harsh reality is that I could go through the grass in Route 201 for all of eternity, and there's only going to be Starlies, Cricketots, and Bidoofs. What preyed on my lack of brain tissue the most were YouTube videos that told me crazy ways to get legendary Pokemon that weren't even in the game. And no matter how ridiculous it was, I'd eat this stuff up. Alright, hey guys, I'm going to show you a hidden technique that nobody knows about that allows you to get Latios in Pokemon Platinum. So what you need to do is you need to spin around 3 times at this exact spot next to the grass. Run to the sign and back to the same spot. If you mess up and go further than I did, it won't work. So now that you're here, you have to spin around again and give a rare bone to a Lapras. It has to be a Lapras, or it won't have the same effect on the game's code, or something. The next step is to teach Grass Knot to specifically Meganium. Make sure you do this, it doesn't work with anybody else. Now immediately walk 3 steps left, a step up, spin around again, walk a step down, 3 steps up, 2 steps to the right, 3 more steps down, and 2 steps left. You'll notice that you have an encounter now. If everything was done correctly, it should be a Latios. If it isn't, you messed up somewhere along the way. If you did it right, then congrats on your new Latios. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I swear I played Gen 4 Pokemon for hundreds of hours, just training random Pokemon up and wandering around trying to find things that weren't there. And hey, I had a good time doing it. I always wished a little bit later down the line that they'd have a Pokemon game where on certain routes there's an incredibly small chance of running into a crazy legendary or something just to mess with people. Luckily we can get pretty close to that these days with randomizers. Combining randomizers with self-imposed challenges is my preferred way of playing Pokemon. The base games are just a tad easy for my taste, and this solves that problem. And the randomizer makes it so that no 2 playthroughs will ever look the same. You'll find yourself using underappreciated Pokemon that you'd usually never think to use, and growing more attached to them because of that. And you could also set it so there's a chance of running into legendaries too, satisfying the itch that my younger self had all of those years ago. That's the true beauty of the Pokemon games to me. The freedom they give you allows for so many different ways of playing, so it doesn't get stale even in my twilight years. You can make up crazy rules for yourself, or you can aimlessly wander around for 200 hours. It's up to you, and that's what makes it one of the ultimate screw-around games. Now I'd like to think that it makes sense why the first 2 games are in this video. Or at least that's what I tell myself in order to sleep at night. But this third one is the most boneheaded of them all.
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
I absolutely love this game, and I've beaten it more times than I can count at this point. but part of its legendary status comes from the times where I just ignore the levels altogether and run around Delfino Plaza like a cat in the night. There's just something so satisfying about terrorizing the Piantas. I jump on their heads, spray them with water, and even throw their fruit into the ocean. It didn't go as well when I tried that on the family vacation. And hey, if they don't want to be jumped on or sprayed, then they should make such funny noises when I do it. And the fruit just grows back, so playing soccer with the durians and basketball with the bananas isn't an issue. I'd even let Yoshi have some fun with the great American pastime of eating an infinite amount of fruit and then vomiting fruit juice on the owners. It wasn't just about terrorizing the locals though. I also loved to ruin Mario's day by going on top of the Shine Sprite Tower and diving off of it over and over again. Sometimes I'd act like Mario was an Olympic diver and do graceful dives into the water. Other times I'd bounce perfectly onto the umbrellas. But my absolute favorite one was using the rocket nozzle to get as much height as possible, and then letting Mario dive face first into the concrete. This is all great, but I'd say most of my time spent in Delfino Plaza was just running on top of the buildings and brainlessly jumping, bouncing, and diving around. It was at this point of getting footage for this video that I had a bit of an existential crisis. Why did I have so much fun doing this for hours? And what is missing from my life now that allowed me to have so much fun doing this back then? Then I remembered that I spend over 10 minutes each day just moving my character around in Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is kind of a similar thing. Instead of moving around on top of 4 rectangles in a 2-dimensional space, I would bounce on 3-dimensional rectangles in a cool city. It just comes down to Mario Sunshine having some pretty sick and satisfying movement. On top of that, Delfino Plaza has a great atmosphere. The music and colorful graphics just nail the tropical vacation town vibe it was going for. And if my old videos are any indication, I was a sucker for this. This realization gave me a new appreciation for just how cool of an overworld it is. It was just a playground for me to mess around and do whatever I wanted. I didn't really need an objective to have fun with what I was doing, and this allowed me to simply vibe. Which was perfect for somebody with an infinite amount of resistance between brain synapses like childhood me, or somebody as blissfully boneheaded as I am now. Now that I've gotten past my violent urges, I can do more productive things like obeying the law, respecting and helping people, and starting a family. By the way, cam person, have you seen where my 6-inch Subway sub is gone? I mean, I thought I put it in the refrigerator, but it could be in one of my 5 other common sub storage locations. You're telling me you ate it?